everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Women in STEM series. My name is Teresa Ode, and I'll be your host for this episode. The Women in STEM series is a platform that showcases women in STEM and their remarkable achievements. We have made it a point of duty to bring to our viewers women all over the world who are doing amazing things in STEM careers and also to spur on other women to take a career in STEM. And for this episode, I'm super excited. I have a remarkable guest here with me. I have Miss Naina Runo. Hello, Miss Naina.
Hi, Teresa.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. We are super excited to have you here today. And yes, we'll be going right into the conversation for today, which is around driving careers for women in aerospace. We'll start by having Miss Nina introduce herself to us, tell us what she does. And so, Miss Nina, please introduce yourself to us.
Hi, I'm Naina Ranu. I'm a Mauritian, currently based in the UK. I'm a space addict, and I'm currently doing my master degree in thermal power, specializing in aerospace propulsion.
Wow, interesting. So this was just going to this just has to be my first question. So what piqued your interest in aerospace?
Oh, I'm an space obsessed person. Like, just tell me anything related to space, I would be like, oh wow, oh my god, I'm so interested in it. I always wanted to know what's beyond. This is why I got into aerospace, and I love mathematics and physics in general. So that somehow led me towards aerospace. And it's quite a huge risk I'm taking because back in my home, there is nothing as a job related to aerospace for me. So hopefully the world is big enough, so is the universe. So hoping for the best, definitely.
That's really interesting because I know that sometimes before people even consider a career choice, they are first thinking about, okay, so what's the security of the jobs in this field? So for you to, be willing to explore something you love, even with the knowledge that, okay, there may be no jobs for this in my own place where I come from. I think it's really brave and has this interest in space been?
I was 5 or 6, I think, or maybe I was even younger. We used to have like I didn't have internet connection actually at that time. It was early 90s, and we used to have like encyclopedia that I was reading. Like, I was always going through, and I could see like the different planets and things about dinosaurs, how dinosaurs get disappeared because of asteroids, and you start being like so obsessed with all these things, trying to know more about it. And yeah, this is it. And then when I was like from 11 to like during my teenage year, I never really think about going into aerospace because maybe this job was not available, easily available in my country. Like, I didn't see anyone doing these things. So I was most probably thinking about going to do medicines or law, like get into law, because this was what was available for me at that time. I was not really seeing more further than doing engineering.
Wow. One of the things I picked from everything you said so far is the fact that you were willing to, chart a course that wasn't popular, and you didn't mind the fact that, oh, this is not what is being done, this is not like the norm, and you were willing to, just try something new. So if I may ask, was there something that made you this way, or did you just realize that you were just you just wanted to be an outlier, or was there something that, sort of gave you the courage that irrespective of what it is, I'm going to pursue what I want?
Oh my God, I always think like there is only like I have only one life to live. So I'm always like, oh, do I really want to do this? Or do I really want to do, like, do I really want to settle with what's being currently offered to me? Or do I want to take the risk and achieve like a better things, what I really want to do later on? So this is why I keep on taking risk ever since, like, I think it's like 3 years, 4 years now. And it's like more rewarding, because if I was like settling do something less when I don't really want to, I would not have been like really happy as I am today. Like I'm grateful that there are some opportunities that have been coming to me, but it was not really something I wanted to do.
Wow. Interesting. Honestly, I really do agree with you because just as you said, we have just one life and it's ultimately no one wants to live in a way where they are just full of regret. I wish I had done this. I wish I just went ahead to do this. And I mean, when we look at it, the worst that could happen is that you don't get it done or you achieve what you thought you were going to achieve from it, but at least you gave it a trial. So I think this is really good and I really celebrate your courage and I believe our audience are going to pick a thing or two from this. So for anyone who is watching and who has been trying to drag their feet as towards something they've been saying, oh, I would like to do this, I think this is just enough courage and enough motivation to get you to do the things you really want to do. Okay, so a bit away from that. Now I want to ask, what does the aerospace field involve? What does it look like? Can you just give us a bit of description as to what you do there and what are the opportunities there?
Mm-hmm. So aerospace, it involves both aviation and space flight. Like the field is very diverse from commercial, industrial to military and defense. And there are many opportunities available, but I'm gonna more focus into my field. It's more about aerospace propulsion. So there is like different opportunities available in marine propulsion, airline operators, power production industry, as well as military and defense, and in research and development and academia. So basically, if you don't find yourself working in an industry, maybe you can teach about it, or maybe even do outreach about it, talk about it. So the opportunities are really vast.
Okay, so I think this is a very interesting point you just touched on. I mean, because when you talk about people trying to get opportunities in the field, most times people think of mainline job descriptions and all of that. But you just mentioned that too. Even if you can't sort of work in that field, you can teach about it, you can speak about it. I think this is just a very important point you have outlined. Okay, so now I would want to ask, what are the benefits, for being a part of aerospace? Because somebody watching this interview now might be wondering, okay, so why should I be interested?
Okay, so let's talk about satellites. Like a satellite is the unmanned, like an unmanned spacecraft. So basically, let's talk about like three things it helps us in our daily life. Like you use Google, like I don't know, like me, I use Google Map daily so I don't get lost. And Google Map is an application like for satellite, and it's like an application for one of satellite is navigation, which is you get lost, you use a navigation tool, and you go around. And secondly is everyone is talking about the iPhone 5G. Where does it come from? Satellite. It's again aerospace. And another thing is, I would say, okay, weather observation, like what's the weather like today outside? Am I going to use the umbrella? And I live in UK, it's always raining. I have to check the weather app every day. It's quite unpredictable sometimes, but at least it helps. So these are like the benefits. Like if you really, like you're really going to work in a field which is bringing value to people. It's not just like you are working. Am I here? What's my purpose? Like you are really going to do something worthwhile to help society.
Well, this is really interesting. And, I couldn't agree less because just as you said, I mean, we would continually have need for, aerospace related field because just as you mentioned now, the satellites sort of control everything that we're going to keep using as regards to the internet and all of that. So I think this is just very important. So I would just want to ask should I say it's a little bit tricky, but okay, let me just go ahead and ask. So generally, for different job areas, we sort of have projections at what should I say, the future, or what kind of opportunities can arise in in different fields. So in aerospace, maybe 10, 20 years down the line, what do you think are some of the things that will become relevant in this STEM space that probably we're not so used to right now?
Can you repeat the last part?
Oh, okay, sorry. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was saying that in aerospace fields now, what are the things that 10, 20 years down the line you think would be very, very relevant that may not be so popular right now? So what are sort of the future in aerospace?
Okay, maybe space travel. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but like 10 years back when, or maybe like when Elon Musk, a decade back, when he talked about, traveling to Mars, and I was like, oh, making, like space travel for people, I was like commercial purpose. I was like, no, I'm not so sure, thinking, oh, now maybe it's not possible. And then like last 27th, like it was long, yeah, like in last May, when he launched SpaceX, sending 2 astronauts to the ISS, I was like, okay. I was already like amazed long time before because I knew like it's gonna happen. But when he launched it, I was like, okay, this is real now. It's taking place. So like 5 years back, a decade back, I wouldn't have known like this is like possible, like to be like his dream was so huge. Like I was like, wow, it's already a good thing. And the thing is, I think like later after we don't know like really like the technology, the way it is expanding, it's like exponentially, it's like way beyond my capacity to think, and it's like what would be in like the next 20-30 years is really going to be something that we couldn't even have imagined right now. That's my point of view. Like maybe for the time being, maybe it might change after 5 years.
Okay, so I think I really agree because I mean the way things just sort of things just sort of evolve, it just sort of makes us in the past we could have felt that okay, maybe something is not possible, but right now I think probably anything can just be possible. And I think I really agree with you that in a few years these are things that we'll no longer be talking about in terms of or something that is going to happen in the future, but something that is right here happening before our very eyes. Okay, how can more women be represented in aerospace? Or maybe before I say that, I would ask that, do we have enough women in aerospace?
Well, I don't know the like the overall percentage in the world, but I know in USA it is around 20% women in the aerospace field in 2018 actually, and I think we can say it's quite an improvement. It's quite an improvement from what it was a decade back, but we definitely need more women in aerospace. And a way of getting more women is if you make like giving visibility to the women right now, like let's say Nigeria is doing, like you would see, okay, if this guy is in aerospace, so another girl would be like, oh wow, okay, maybe I can get like you see a representation of yourself and you're like, I can do this too. And another way I think is through making like more of the women doing outreach program where they talk about what they're doing a day in their life and making other girls realize like this is fun, this is like engineers looking like you that exist. And the way when they start seeing other people like them making like more outreach program, talking to them about their love for aerospace, how it is, what they do. It's like maybe we could get more girls involved. And there is this good thing I know about, there is lots of mentoring program, virtually as well, where like we get to mentor and shadow college students. So let's say there is someone who is like 14, she wants to do aerospace, I can be her mentor. And I can like tell her, guide her more toward like how to do the studies like next, what to someone, like she connect with someone on LinkedIn and connect with the person and ask what's forward, what is it about. And another good thing is a lot of the aviation companies, they focus on having more women careers, like more STEM careers. We definitely want more women to pursue a STEM career. So I know, so they have like a special program for that. I know Virgin Athletics is one of them. So to summarize, to have more women representation in aerospace, first thing is giving women like encouraging women working in that field to mentor youngsters. Another one is to do outreach program and give more visibility to them, to make other girls realize that they are there, and more industry giving more opportunities to girls deserving to work in that field.
Okay, so I think this is just really important because just as you've mentioned, if someone doesn't know something exists, it becomes difficult to even imagine that they could be there. So that the visibility of getting more girls to see what women in this space are already doing in a long way, having more women on board. And just as you said, that's why Let's Learn is here doing what they do with the Women in STEM series. Okay, so please, for our viewers, if you have any questions for our guest, if you have any question for Ms. Nina, please do well to type it in the chat box so that we could take it as we go, because we'll be wrapping up soon. So please, if you have any questions, just send it in and we'll have our guest answer those questions. Okay, so before we go further ahead, we just want to ask, because you started by talking about the fact that as of 2018 there are just 20% of women represented in the aerospace field, using US, if I got you right, as the case study. So why should there be more women in this space? So I just wanted to ask that, why do we need more women in the aerospace field?
We just don't need it in the aerospace field. I think we need it in more STEM related careers.
Okay.
Okay, one of my main reasons, quite superficial, is when I was practicing as a mechanical engineer back in my country, I felt quite unsupported because I was the only girl. So we tend to leave a field. So if you think like you're the only one, you kind of feel like, okay, you don't feel enough support. So if we have more if we have more girls, more support, it's like you bring a bigger ally and you're stronger the bigger you are. Maybe that's one of the reasons I want more girls in aerospace and STEM in general.
Okay, so I think this is just very important, because I really liked the fact that you made it sound that, okay, so this is not just about aerospace, this is about STEM here on Let's Learn TV, because it's something that, I mean, it's everywhere, it's all over the world. It's a major challenge that we have less women represented in STEM related fields, and that's why I want to keep showcasing what women in these fields are doing. So, as to serve as a sort of motivation, to get a lot of younger women to also pursue careers in STEM. Okay. Oh, okay. So I can see that someone in the chat box was helping us take note of some of the things you mentioned as applications of aerospace. I can see they listed GPS navigation, technological communication, and meteorology. Okay, so this is really nice. Thank you so much. It just shows our viewers have been taking very good note of the things you've been saying.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So okay. So yeah, actually. So we'll quickly take a short commercial break before we get back and just have ask a few more questions, and we'll wrap up today's episode. So yes, please, let's just have the commercial break now. Okay, so welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, to all our amazing audience that have been watching this interview since we started. And thank you once again to Miss Naina. I mean, I've been enjoying every bit of this conversation. Okay, so now I want to ask about, for someone who wants to pursue a career in aerospace, how does this person start?
Firstly, we have to choose, and very importantly, we have to choose STEM-related subjects during high school. Secondly, if like I would suggest subscribing to pages and websites related to aerospace, at least get to know if your life. Because when you subscribe to those pages, you get access to what's there. Is it something you really want to do? For example, good pages you can subscribe to is like NASA and SpaceX and read their newsletter. Another way is to join Aerospace Society and network. And you can also reach out to people on LinkedIn, Instagram, and even Twitter, and ask them about their pathway. Never have I ever like asked someone about their pathway and they refused to tell me. And this is the way I got like to really network with amazing people, just for LinkedIn and Twitter and even Instagram. And another way is you can join aerospace club in your college and start working on aerospace related project. If there is none, maybe you can find mine like like them. Okay, you can find like-minded people and start collaborating on different projects, and maybe make your own space club and start organizing projects for other students. And a plus point would be learning programming, participating maybe in some aerospace hackathon to get more involved in the aerospace project, and it makes it a bit more easier to have a job later on. I think so. And I think, but the thing, like what I think is to really love what you are doing. If you really want to start doing, to pursue aerospace career, is like really loving, really be disciplined in it, really be passionate about it. Because if you're not passionate about it, it's like you're gonna be okay. You don't want to do it because at the end of the day, if it's not making you happy, like why even do it?
Okay. Area. And I believe everyone who's watching would have learned a thing or two, because just as you've mentioned, subscribing to newsletters is just so important. It sort of just keeps you updated on what's happening, from time to time. So I think this is just really important. And thank you so much for mentioning some of these things. Okay, so please, if we have any questions, you could just let us know so we could take those questions. So STEM related field who probably, because just as you mentioned, you were, when you were practicing mechanical engineering, and it looked like there was no time to do anything else, so you just
and says, I am quoting Gary Sinise, and he said, carriers like rockets don't always take off on schedule. The key is to keep working the engines. And I have to say, like, sheer determination and persistence, that's key. Like, don't give up. At least the first 3 months, put your maximum effort that you can. And in case it doesn't work, then you see whether you really want to leave or you really want to continue. But you really have to be very persistent.
Okay. I mean, I really agree with you, because persistence is key in everything. Because just as you said, I mean, there's almost no time that you try to do something that you won't find maybe a need to say, okay, I'm not doing anymore, or something that will make you want to give up. But that's persistence, to stay there and say, okay, irrespective of what happens, this is something I want to do, and I'm going to stick to it until I get it done. So I think that's just so important. Okay. Okay, so I don't think we have any questions, so we could call it a wrap here. Thank you so much, Miss Nina. I mean, I've had an amazing time here. I've learned a whole lot from some of the things you've shared, and I believe everyone who has been with us since this interview started. Okay, so I can see there's a question now. So the question says, you often tweet about MATLAB. Why MATLAB? So this is directed to you. So yes.
Okay. Who was that? Who asked that?
Okay, the question is for Musa.
Okay. Okay, so basically, I started learning MATLAB and Python this year, and I started MATLAB 7 years back. I was doing control engineering, and then this year, before coming to come to my university, I was okay. Maybe I should start learning like new programming languages, and I went to learn MATLAB because I really wanted to do really wanted to get involved in control engineering, like aerospace and control engineering. And I started learning MATLAB all over again. And yeah, I whine a lot about MATLAB sometimes, a lot. But I love MATLAB. I love MATLAB for sure. It's just a love story.
Okay. Wow. So this is really interesting because I think this is just really encouraging also because I know that, yeah, sometimes, especially for something that you've probably come across before, going back to say, okay, I'm going to devote time to, become really good at this thing. I think it's just so good. And just as you've mentioned, once for everyone who is listening, once you pick interest in something, I think it's always a good thing to, just start to get a lot of information about it, so you become really good at that, which is something that I have picked from everything you said so far, and I'm really going to start to, apply that a lot more, because I think that's one thing that just stood out since this interview started, the fact that you saw something you were interested in and you went all out to, get to know it better. And just as you're also doing even with MATLAB, I think this is just so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's all the question we have. Thank you so much, Miss Nina. I've had an amazing time here.
Me too. Thank you for having me. It was really amazing.
Uh, Thank you so much. So thanks to everyone who has been here with us. Thanks to all our viewers. Thanks to everyone. So special thanks to our sponsors, STEMacademy.io. So STEM Academy is a coaching and mentoring platform with a unique approach for training future generation of STEM entrepreneurs. And unlike other platforms, at STEM Academy, you have a blended learning and mentoring structure that allows you make the most of everything you'll be learning. So please do well to check out STEMacademy.io. And also thanks to letslearn.ng, which is an educational marketplace for all resources. You can get STEM kits, educational supplies, and letslearn.ng also runs coaching programs, virtual programs, after school programs, and all of that. So you can please check out letslearn.ng. And special thanks to Brainiac STEM and Robotics, which is the Innovation Epicenter. So these are our sponsors. And okay, so I can see we have another question here. So I'm going to ask you that question. So it says, are you open to holding tutorials on modeling with MATLAB?
Oh, unfortunately, no, I'm not that good. I don't think I'm that good like to do that, but maybe in the future when I'll become an expert in it.
Okay, so I believe the person who asked that question has gotten a response, but definitely would always like to, once you're trying to do something in this line, I'm sure would want to, work with you and all of that. So this would be really a really good opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you so much. So to everyone who has been with us, please, if you are not subscribed to Let's Learn TV, please do well to click the subscription button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please also click on the bell button beside the subscription button so you can get notified whenever we go live. And I believe everyone who has been here has learned a lot. and you don't want other people who you know should be here to miss out on the amazing things we do at Less Than TV. So do well to, share the link to the YouTube channel with your friends and everyone who you think would be interested in this. So, okay, you know what? Someone just dropped something in the comment box that I wanted to mention. I think it just skipped my mind. So this person says aerospace club sounds exciting. And honestly, I agree. You know, when you were talking about things that can be done to get more women in the space, and you were like, if you're interested in aerospace, this is something you can actually start a club if there's, no existing club. Because as you mentioned, joining a club, I started to think about some of our universities here, especially for those of us in Nigeria. And I was like, I'm not sure we have such actually. So, but the fact that this can be done. So, any advice for someone who might be interested in doing that, or in case you have such an organization and people can join virtually?
Virtually. Actually, I know quite a lot. Do you have like a place where I can send it afterwards? Because I'm gonna make like an Excel and then send it to you, and then you can share with them, because I know a lot. I don't want to mention one right now and then don't mention another. So I can do this.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. This would really appreciate it. You can just send it to the email. You can just send it to the email, and we'll share it with our audience. Thank you so much. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this episode. I mean, it just feels like we should go on and on with this conversation. Thank you so much, Miss Nina, and thanks to all our amazing audience.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Yes. Okay, so bye everyone, and please stay connected so you don't miss out on the next episode of the Women in STEM series. So bye, Miss Nina. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, you too.
Yes.